Hello and welcome back. In this video, we will be talking about voice note collections. So voice note collections are probably what you think they are, and it is a set of multiple voice notes combined into one larger analysis. So this larger set of voice notes, it's what I'm calling a collection. And by looking at all of these voice notes together, this allows you to get insights from all of these different voice notes together in one collection. So this is quite handy, especially if you have captured different thoughts in different voice notes that relate to the same subject or to the same situation that you want to think about. So I'm going to go straight into this. I've separated a quick walkthrough on how to use the voice note collections, 5 different best practices to make this a good experience. I'm going to talk about 3 exclusive AI chat commands that are only for voice note collections. And finally, as usual, I will be going through a couple of examples so that you can see this in practice. So how to use voice note collections. The first option and the default here is to create any voice note collection. So what this means is that you can simply add the voice note collection super tag to any empty node, and then you're going to manually add the voice notes to this field called selected voice notes. And from here, you're ready to run the commands that are inside the AI analysis group. So just as a quick example here, I can hashtag voice note collection. So when I add this to a node, I can give this a name. So this is going to be an example collection. And from here, I can copy references to different voice notes and paste them here in this field. So whenever this has at least one voice note, you will be able to run the AI analysis command. So let's briefly add a voice note here. I can keep adding more voice notes, but I just want to show how this works. So this is a copy of this reference voice note. I can quickly open this and maybe bring a new one. So let's just copy, paste this one. So now you see I have 2 different voice notes, and from here I can click and run our familiar AI analysis command. And from here we can choose different AI chats to look at this collection and get insights from AI. So this is how to create any voice collection, but I also want to show how to create voice collections inside the super folders. As you know, the Tana Voice Note Agent comes with super folders where you can save different voice notes to. These are the projects, areas, topics, and contemplations. So another option to create a voice note collection is to go inside one of these super folders and then create a voice note collection in that specific location. Here you will follow the same steps as for any voice note collection, and this is to create this voice note collection with the super tag voice note collection. Then here you can either create a live search to bring all of the selected voice notes into this field, or you can manually add them just as we saw in the previous step. And from here, again, you can run an AI analysis. So let's find a project here. I know I have one called Launch Voice Note AI Agent. So from here, you see I have the project dashboard. I have a couple of nodes here, but I want to create a voice note collection straight away. And I'm going to call this Voice Note Agent. And here I can create a search. So I'm going to hit the Command K and I'm going to find nodes with the tag voice note with the field project called Launch Voice Note AI Agent. So I'm going to create this as a field. I can call this selected voice notes. And here you will see I have brought in all of the different voice notes that are associated with this project. So just so you see the search expression here, this is finding all voice notes with the project field assigned to launch Voice Note AI agent. And from here, again, I can click the AI analysis and you can choose from several possibilities here and run any of these. I'm going to show an example on the end of this video, so let's keep moving because we have some more things to talk about before the example. So this was how to create a voice note collection inside a super folder, inside a project in this case. So keep in mind that you can use both of these formats. Now let's move into the 5 best practices on how to use voice note collections. So the first thing that you might be asking yourself is how many voice notes can a collection have? And the simple answer here is something around 5 to 15 voice notes is a good number for a collection, because less than 5 is probably too few voice notes, so the insights might not be that interesting, and more than 15 is probably too much and it might be somewhat confusing for AI to handle. But of course, this ideal number of voice notes depends on a couple of other factors. And the most important one is the size of the voice notes. So if you have large voice notes that are a couple of minutes long, then it's probably a good idea to stick with less voice notes, something around 5 to 8. But if you have very small voice notes that are a couple of seconds or maybe like less than a minute long, then you could have more than 15. You might include 20 or something and see how that goes. So experiment for yourself, see how this works. And another thing to consider is the selected topics for analysis. So if these voice notes are on several different topics, then if you include many voice notes about many different topics, that might also be a little confusing. So if you have just one topic and several different voice notes around that same topic, then it might be easy to handle. And if you're handling several different topics, it might be a good idea to have just a few voice notes related to each topic, such that AI can make these connections across domains and find you interesting insights that are interdisciplinary with some structure and not too many voice notes to handle. So as usual, experiment with these, see what works best for you, and find your own sweet spot for these analyses using voice note collections. So best practice number 2 is to test if all voice notes are being received by the prompt. So in order to do this, I've prepared this command called check voice notes. And this is super simple. In any given voice note collection, whenever you click on AI analysis, you will see this command called check voice notes. And I'm going to expand this voice note so that we can see what this means. Whenever I click this command called check voice notes, AI is going to give us an answer with all of the different voice notes that it has received based on this field called selected voice notes. So in theory, what we're expecting is that this list with the voice notes included in the collection is exactly the same as the one we have in the selected voice notes field. So here we see 5 voice notes, and they are the exact same voice notes inside this output. So this means AI has received all of the voice notes included in this analysis. So this is a quick way to check if there are too many voice notes and if AI might be missing information from the voice notes that you chose here in the selected voice notes field. This is best practice number 2. And the third one here is that collections work best with AI chats. And for that reason, I have only included the AI chats for these voice note collections. Because the idea here is to really explore the ideas within this collection. So this gives you the opportunity to go deeper on the initial insights as compared to smart objects where you only have a one-time output. AI chats give you the ability to actually explore and keep on going deeper with your analysis And this is the spirit that a voice note collection calls for. So the next thing I want to cover is being mindful that running AI chats with collections of voice notes means you're using more Tana credits. So collections send multiple voice notes inside a prompt, and this means you're using more tokens or you're using more Tana credits compared to a normal voice note analysis. So this shouldn't be too much of a big deal, but do keep in mind that you are using more credits when running voice notes. And as we'll see in a second, you will even receive a warning when running AI chats with the collections of voice notes if they are really big. And here are a couple of ideas to improve this cost efficiency or to reduce the amount of credits that you're using. So the first and most obvious one is to include only the most important voice notes. So you don't need to include every single voice note you have access to or every single voice note in a super folder. You can filter and keep only the most important ones in the analysis. This will reduce the amount of information that you're sending over and the cost for this specific prompt. Second thing is to only leave node references in the voice note object. So when you run a Tana command, any nodes that are inside the voice note will be sent with the prompt, but references are not. So this is an important distinction here, and I want to show this with an example. This should actually be handled by default, but I want to quickly show an example so you understand what I mean by this. So if we take a quick look here, you will see that this specific node here is a reference. You can identify it by this dotted line across the node. And this is different. If I bring this reference node here, you will see that now it does not have a dotted line. So if I send this over inside a voice note collection, AI is going to receive all of the output inside this specific object. So in order to improve this cost efficiency, we want to make sure that there are only references inside the voice notes. So as I said, this is handled by default because when I put any node under this voice agent output, it's going to automatically be moved to the today node. And this means only the reference is going to stay here and the actual node will not be here anymore. So this is tip number 2. And tip number 3 is to be more mindful and think carefully about which AI chats to run. So as voice collection prompts are a little bit more expensive, I wouldn't suggest running several random AI chats. So you can be more mindful about which AI chats are really going to be useful for this specific analysis. And the final best practice here is to add context to the voice note collection. So if you saw the video on AI chats, you're probably familiar with this. This is a very similar process. And the idea is to add context about the specific voice collection. And this means you can explain your objective with this analysis of different voice notes. You can explain how they are related or how you're looking for relations between these voice notes. And similarly to voice notes and the visual voice notes, you can add this context inside this field called selected voice notes. And in case you have a contextual voice note, you can clearly indicate which of these is this specific context for the collection. And I'm going to show examples for all of these possibilities here in a second. Before we move on to these examples, I want to quickly talk about these 3 different AI chats that are exclusive to voice note collections. And they are the cross-pollination of ideas, the synthesis of knowledge, and the temporal evolution analysis. So all 3 of these work with different voice notes, either by connecting ideas from these different voice notes or by analyzing trends that span across different voice notes and depend on having multiple voice notes in order to generate an analysis. So let's take a look at these examples now, because this will make everything that we saw so far clearer and more tangible. So I have two examples here. The first one is related to the Tana Voice Note Agent with different voice notes related to the template. The second one is related to thought leadership. So let's take a look at this specific one for the Tana Voice Note Agent. So here you will see that I have clearly differentiated between the contextual voice note and the rest of the voice note collection. So this specific voice note serves as the context, as it explains where I am right now and what are my objectives with this analysis. So from here, we can start running a couple of these analyses to start understanding how this works. Let's run an AI analysis here, and I want to demonstrate the command that we have talked about, the cross-pollination. So as you can see, when I try to run this command, since I'm sending over all of these different voice notes and I'm using the model GPT 4.5, this will consume a larger portion of AI credits than usual. So Tana asks for a confirmation before proceeding. And in this case, I do want to continue, so I'm going to click send anyway. And from here, we will start receiving this analysis of cross connections between these different voice notes. And since we're using a good model, this should give us a good analysis and some interesting connections. So let's see exactly what AI brings to us. So let's take a look at what we have right now. So connection number one is between vocal creation power and human super intelligence. So it's bringing concepts from these two different voice notes. Both emphasize the transformative potential of intentional human expression, either through voice notes or interaction with AI. So the act of speaking aloud is described as this metaphysical and digital creative force aligning with the idea of human superintelligence, where intentionality and consciousness are amplified by AI interactions. So this suggests that intentional vocalization can serve as a powerful interface to enhance human cognitive and spiritual capabilities, especially integrated with AI. Highlights the potential to position Tana Voice Note Agent not merely as a productivity tool, but as a transformative medium for personal and collective evolution, deeply resonating with users seeking holistic growth. This is good. I like this connection. And if we keep going, we're going to see more connections. So voice notes as this contextual bridge for AI interaction, these connecting these two voice notes. So this is related to context-rich voice notes. Here we see connection between intellectual property through AI-enhanced knowledge management, which looks interesting. Let's see a powerful approach to rapidly developing and refining intellectual property, positioning Tana as a critical tool for thought leaders, suggests creating targeted AI-driven workflows specifically to generate and refine intellectual property, and so forth, right? We can continue with connections. Here we see also patterns that were identified across these different voice notes. So we talk about intentionality, which appears in multiple voice notes. We see voice as this multi-dimensional interface for knowledge and consciousness. Emphasizing voice as a holistic interface can inform product positioning, marketing strategies. And as you can see, all of these answers are somewhat connected to this context of the Tana Voice Note Agent as a product, right? It talks about marketing strategies, product positioning. So these are connected to what I fees personally want with these voice notes inside the collection by connecting this to the launch of version 2.0, right? So these are connections that are guided towards this purpose. And we could keep going. We could expand on any of these connections. But I want to close this for now and move on to another possible analysis that we could go for here. And following that same spirit of using these specific AI chats for the collections of voice notes, I want to go for this time evolution analyzer. And I'm going to send this anyway. Again, I want to use all the credits possible to get a good answer here. I usually, even by running these big commands, I usually don't run out of credits. So you might have problems if you're using too much, but even though, yeah, I usually go for it. So in this case, for this specific AI chat, we are going to get a historical evolution of ideas in this collection of voice notes. So an important thing to keep in mind here is that each voice note comes with the created time. And here you can see this one was from December, a couple of other ones are from January. And in this specific example, some of these dates are not super precise because I've duplicated some of these voice notes and moved them around, but we're still going to be able to get the general idea of this analysis here. So as you can see, we have split between initial exploration, emergence of advanced AI agents and custom chats, which indeed only happened in January for Tana, integration with AI knowledge. And this is usually mapping individual voice notes and bringing how the general idea for each of these voice notes was and how they have evolved. So here you can see talking about the benefits. Here, the idea of introducing custom chats or smart chats, the shift towards more interactive AI interactions. Then we can see this explicit connection between knowledge management and AI. And we can keep on looking at what has been the general theme by going forward in time from the first voice note in this sequence. And in the end, after this historical evolution, you can see cyclical pattern. So recurring theme of voice as a creative force, iterative enhancement of AI interactions. So this shows initial AI integration, advanced agent capabilities, structured knowledge integration, and other ideas. So it brings these different voice notes that talk about the same concept and puts them together in cycles, the idea of strategic thought leadership, and we can even go for critical transition points. So some of these voice notes might have been more important and brought more changes than other ones. So here we can see these transition or inflection points. So here, the shift from the basic voice note to advanced AI interactions. This was triggered by Tana introducing custom chats, and this catalyzed a significant template redesign and deeper AI integration. So this is super true. This is exactly what happened. So by running this temporal analysis, you can get this idea of major milestones and see how your ideas have evolved over time within a specific context. In this case, it's related to the Tana Voice Note Agent. You could run this related to other projects you have, specific areas in your life, and other themes that you might get creative about. So here you can also see future trajectories and maybe even get suggestions for future explorations based on these evolutions. And of course, we can ask follow-up questions and ask AI to suggest more possibilities to explore and evolve the ideas for this system. And from here, AI is going to use this analysis that it has already generated. And from here, give us more suggestions to improve and to bring in new perspectives based on the content of these voice notes and this initial analysis. And it's most probably going to use its own ideas based on the further exploration or future trajectories. And if you want AI to focus on any specific one, then you should copy and paste this into your prompt so that AI knows where you want it to go deeper on and develop more ideas about. So here you can see it talks about advanced emotional intelligence integration using external devices to capture data, which is probably not going to be that easy. It talks about dynamic knowledge graph visualization. This could be possible sometime. So it could be generated from voice notes. This could be an interesting idea. Multi-agent collaborative ecosystem. This could be quite interesting to design a collaborative ecosystem of specialized agents with different personalities, expertise. These could dynamically interact, collaborate, and so much more, right? So AI is giving us several different ideas here. It's still writing, but I think this is enough for this example here. I wanted to show you that you can get this initial insight and you can ask AI to go deeper into more ideas. You can go deeper into a specific idea. And this is an interesting way to use these AI chats within a collection. So this is enough for this collection. Now let's wrap this video up by briefly analyzing this other collection talking about thought leadership. And here I want to show that I've manually added the context here inside the selected voice notes field. So here I have explained to AI that thought leadership is a very important concept to me, and I want to build a system in Tana to help me organize intellectual property, develop ideas, and the objective of this analysis is to guide me with ideas, suggestions, insights to build this system and build this thought leadership practice. And here I have several different voice notes that range from thought leadership to specific implementation ideas that I had, such as seed notes, focus on creating YouTube videos, and some other ideas that even connect to the voice note agent. So from here, I'm going to do the same thing we did for the last voice note. We're going to start with these AI analysis, and I want to run this other command that we didn't play with yet, which is the knowledge synthesizer. I'm going to send this anyway, and again, let's see what AI brings to us in this analysis. So here we start with a methodology synthesis, which is applying methodologies from one node to other nodes. This node, for the evolution from note-taking to knowledge media, introduces this powerful methodology transforming traditional note-taking apps into structured, interactive knowledge platforms that we can share. This is connected to the idea of seed notes and the idea greenhouse, which is one of these voice notes, and the seed notes detail. This is talking about how seed notes can evolve into structured knowledge media, becoming interactive platforms where ideas are not only stored, but actively shared, refined, and developed in collaboration. So this is again connecting these different voice notes. And here specifically, this idea of categorizing and transforming seeds, which is one of the ideas that I mentioned here, into different types of outputs, which could be articles, videos, products. This aligns very well with this knowledge distribution and the structured representation of ideas. Here we even get a hypothesis, which is that implementing seed nodes as interactive knowledge media platforms could significantly enhance users' thought leadership practice by facilitating deeper engagement in collective intellect. This connects to the context for this voice note collection by aligning with my objectives, which is to integrate this thought leadership practice. So the second integration here is applying concepts from this thought leadership on the alchemy of opposing skills and ideas into developing intellectual properties with the voice note agent. So the user can deliberately identify and integrate conflicting or diverse ideas within voice notes using AI to create richer intellectual properties, To use AI to identify and synthesize these opposing ideas can lead to more innovative and compelling intellectual property. Now, another idea that is also being applied to this voice note of developing intellectual property with the voice note agent comes from the new era of artificial intelligence, where we talk about prompt engineering and AI structuring. So in this case, it talks about how we can define prompts with clear context, data, instructions, such that the user can enhance the AI's ability to consolidate and formalize these intellectual properties using voice notes. This talks about prompt engineering being helpful in this AI analysis of voice notes. So this next section here talks about knowledge arbitrage, which is applying knowledge from one voice note as a solution for situations and concepts posed in another voice note. So this first one is cross-domain application of content creation strategy. And it talks about how changing the focus to create YouTube content can be a successful solution to this idea of knowledge media and using note-taking apps. So what this means is leveraging video as a primary medium within knowledge media platforms, such that inside a note-taking app or a knowledge media, we can use video content to significantly enhance the depth and dimensionality of knowledge sharing. And this would have an impact, potentially increasing engagement and value perception of this shared knowledge. This is an interesting idea of combining creating YouTube videos with this evolution of note-taking apps and knowledge media. We could keep on analyzing these other ideas suggested by AI. We can also, of course, see what are the future directions and paths for deeper exploration that AI suggests us. We can ask follow-up questions. But this is good for this specific analysis on the synthesis of knowledge. Now, before we wrap up, let's take a look at a final AI analysis for this voice note collection to wrap up this video. And this time, I want to run the Zodiac Archetypes analysis. So let's see what are the different archetypes being represented within this collection of voice notes. Let's take a look at what are the different archetypes being brought to life in this collection of voice notes. So I'm actually curious to see what's going to come up. I know we are dealing a lot with knowledge, so we might see some archetypes that are connected to this idea. We're also talking about AI, intellectual property, the idea of developing notes. So let's take a look and see what comes up. So the first thing we see is this overview, right? Bringing together a general overview of this collection. And here I like where we start because the first thing we see is this Aquarius archetype, which talks about innovation, community, and this future vision. And in this case, it shows specific situations where this has been identified. So in this case, the visionary idea of note-taking apps evolving into knowledge media to facilitate this deeper social integration aligns with Aquarius. This idea of collective intellect and increasing the collective IQ as well, strategic use of AI agents to distribute and organize knowledge. And here we see example quotes from the voice notes. So this is a step towards collective intellect, which is this idea by Douglas Engelbart's AI agents that can communicate and exchange information. Interesting. And here we get key lessons and insights and practical applications. So Aquarius energy highlights the importance of innovation and community-oriented thinking, encourages embracing technological advancements to foster collective intelligence and societal progress. This is surely involved here in this collection. And practical applications would be to develop platforms and systems that prioritize collective knowledge sharing and leverage AI to facilitate these knowledge structures and collaborations. Interesting, this makes sense. And here we see another air archetype, which is Gemini. This is related to knowledge, in this case also communication, curiosity, and versatility. So the exploration of diverse communication formats and the strategic shift from Twitter to YouTube is one of these situations. The idea of seed nodes to capture ideas that can transform, and this idea of curiosity and intellectual flexibility. Here we get a couple of situations where these have appeared, and now the key lessons, we can see that this talks about adaptability, curiosity, communication, other ideas. And of course, we can keep going with these other archetypes. So here, AI mentions the Virgo archetype, which is connected to structured organization. It mentions here meticulous analysis and practical application of knowledge, implemented structured AI-driven systems. It also talks about the Sagittarius archetype with expansion, meaning making, again, this idea of visionary thinking. It talks about importance of this type of thinking, philosophical inquiry, meaningful expression. And it also mentions Scorpio related to this depth, transformation, and the alchemical integration, which is mentioned in one of these voice notes. So this also talks about using these ideas to propose transformation. This talks about engaging in this reflective practice and integrate internal conflicts, embrace this transformative process as opportunities for deeper authenticity and professional mastery. And in the end, here we can see the integration of all these different archetypes and how they can be connected. So here we see Aquarius and Sagittarius providing this visionary, expansive framework. We can see Gemini and Virgo offering practical tools for communication, systematic refinement, and Scorpio being this energy anchor for processing in a more deep psychological integration, transformative growth. And together, these archetypes present probably what is a summary of the overview of all of these voice notes, which is this idea, a comprehensive strategy for developing impactful thought leadership, leveraging this technological innovation, versatile communication, structured refinement, visionary purpose, and authentic integration. And of course, all of these are topics and ideas mentioned inside these voice notes. So again, this is another perspective, another way to look at ideas from these different voice notes, this time looking through a different perspective, using these archetypes, these Zodiac archetypes, to see which ones are most present, how you can integrate these, also reflective questions to help you probably balance between these archetypes. You can, of course, ask follow-up questions, so you can ask which archetypes are not being activated and how you can balance these and bring them into play so that you're having a holistic perspective and you're not missing important ways to think about this situation in this collection of voice notes. So this is another example on how to use these AI analysis for a voice note collection to get different perspectives, to dive deeper into the ideas contained within this collection. So this wraps up this example for thought leadership as well. 2 analysis is enough for us to get an interesting idea on how to explore these collections of voice notes. And from here, it's time to wrap up. So thank you very much for watching. I hope that voice note collections serve you really well in your explorations. This has been super fun to play with. And personally, I have really enjoyed using the voice note collections. They have brought me several different ideas and interesting insights that come from separate voice notes, some that I have collected in months of distance, one from the other. So this is also a very interesting way to connect ideas from your past self to your present self, because you have this dynamic partner, which is AI, that helps you go through these several different voice notes that you have and bring you ideas and help you explore them. So this is super interesting, and I really hope you enjoy playing with these voice note collections. So please let me know what you think about this. If you have any suggestions, if you have any new commands that you would like to see inside the voice note collections, share them with me. You can post them as a comment here in this lesson or in the YouTube video. I'll make sure to check them, or post them inside the questions section for the Circle community. But either way, I would really love to know what are your ideas about this feature, because I see a lot of potential here, and this is something that I'm willing to invest more on and explore on future versions of the Tana Voice Note Agent. So let me know what you think. I really hope that you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you around.